Hello, vinyl community. This is Tommy in North Carolina, and I'm doing a video that's sort of a response to a question of music that you grow into. I'm going to kind of rephrase the question to make it a little more direct and call it music for adults. And what I mean by that is not necessarily adult themed music, but music that I think that I appreciate more as an adult than I would have as a young person. So I'm going to quickly run through a few of these. Some of them are shared by some other folks. But before I do that, I just wanted to say a quick rest in peace, long live Michael Parks, the actor. Most of you know him from Quentin Tarantino films, as well as he had been in Twin Peaks with David Lynch. But he was an actor, and he also did this record, Long Lonesome Highway. I picked this up a few years ago for $1, and just wanted to say a quick, this is on the MGM label. And just wanted to say a quick, rest in peace to Michael Parks. And thanks for all the good memories. So these are artists for adults, or music that I grew into. The first one is somebody that I haven't seen yet show up on these, but it's Tom Waits. This is his album, Swordfish Trombones, which I would say is probably a departure point for him. His early stuff was sort of a jazz beat poet kind of thing, if you're familiar with like Small Change and Nighthawks at the Diner and that sort of stuff. But I think by this point in the early 80s, he had really shifted gears and got away from that and started doing more, I would say, interesting material. The early stuff is certainly interesting, but I would say Tom Waits is one of those artists that I've always heard about growing up, and a lot of friends that were into Tom Waits. But to me, it's just, maybe it was the voice, I don't know, but it was a little too out there for me. It was a little too out there to fully enjoy and appreciate. But when I really listened to Tom, starting a couple of years ago, I really appreciated what he was doing, and it was interesting, and I realized he was playing these characters and the stories that he was telling, and so that was definitely an artist I grew into. Here's one that has shown up on a few of these lists, and that's Van Morrison. This, of course, is the Moondance album, which is probably one of his most commercially known. It's got the title track, Moondance, Into the Mystic, Crazy Love. There's quite a few tracks on Moondance that are very well known. But an album that I would say is more of sort of an adult album is after that run of albums. This is in the late 70s. I would say Van, by the late 70s into the 90s, definitely became an adult artist, somebody that I think you had to be a little bit older to really appreciate. Had I heard this album as a teenager, it would have gone completely over my head. This is Wavelength, and there's just a couple of tracks like Kingdom Hall and the title track, Wavelength, that I think are just fantastic songs. And they don't really, to me, they don't sort of get their due in sort of the Van Morrison sort of, when everybody talks about Van Morrison, some of that stuff gets overlooked. But I think definitely some of the Into the Music, those Warner Brothers albums he did in the late 70s into the 80s, starting probably with Wavelength, Van definitely took more of an adult contemporary sort of track in his career, and I think that he did some really worthy material, but I don't know of many 16-year-olds that probably love that music as much as some of my older friends and people that are my age. Another artist that kind of falls into that is Joni Mitchell. Joni, and particularly, after Blue, I would rank Joni Mitchell as one of the great female songwriters of all time. I know that's not a stretch, but I would put her in a class above even the likes of people like Carole King and a lot of great writers. But Joni really has a way of cutting to the bone and some of her stuff. I think she's just miles above like some of her contemporaries, like Ricky Lee Jones and people like that. All really, really talented people, but I don't know that Joni can some of the themes that she tackles can really get at younger audiences, or that young people could really appreciate it. I don't know, maybe when these records were being released, there were probably 18 and 19-year-olds that was really digging that stuff, but I know for me personally, I was well out of college before I really appreciated and learned to like Joni Mitchell. And finally, the last artist that I will talk about is Mr. Warren Zevon. I think is definitely what I would call an adult artist, music for adults. Everybody knows Werewolves of London, but his music had a sort of a comedic edge. It was black, but I think I think that would go over a lot of young people's heads. I don't know that they would be able to appreciate it as much as an older audience. And so that's somebody, like I said, I discovered later, and I know that I would have never put him on my radar at all as a young man, unfortunately. But anyway, those are some of the music that I've grown into. Thanks to everybody that's been watching, liking, and subscribing, commenting. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. Continue to do that right below. I'll probably put a few links to some of the other videos that are related to this topic down in below, and check those out for sure. Some videos I'll watch, and there's quite a few of you that I've quite enjoyed over the last few months. But thanks again for watching. You can follow me on Twitter and or Instagram. It's TommyBurton75. Go ahead and click that follow button. And a lot of times, aside from just general, going to the ball game and stuff, a lot of my posts are records that I'm spinning and things that I'm listening to. So it's probably a worthy feed if you're interested in that sort of thing. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.